You cannot come to Japan and be like, oh, that's different from where I'm from. Oh, this is strange or weird or perverted. The reality is like no one thinks that way. In Akihabara, saying that sexualization it's just for men is also wrong. Like 300 years ago, they already had shunga and made all these octopuses, which was art, but it was also erotic art. Like if this turns you on, then that's fine. That's good for you.
Hey there, and thank you for tuning in. We're excited to bring you another great conversation today. If you like the show and want to support us, please hit the subscribe button so we can keep bringing you great content week after week. And if you're feeling extra generous, give this video a like and share your thoughts and comments down below. Thank you so much. And now, let's get into it. Welcome to Unpacking Japan. I'm Toby, and today we welcome Tristan. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you very much for the invite.
You're the founder of Around Akiba and Kaikoku Co, a company that specializes in marketing, a marketing agency focused on the Otaku world, where you dive deep into many different sections from the anime, the cosplay, but also Gravure and many more. So we're going to talk about this whole universe today and perhaps start with your journey to Japan. Where did that begin?
Yeah, it's a pleasure and an honor. My journey, I was born in Düsseldorf. We talked about this before, and Düsseldorf is a city in Germany, but it's not just any city. I think Düsseldorf is one of the biggest communities for Japanese people in Europe, and there's a lot of Japanese stores with, selling, of course, food, there's cuisine, and then also anime goods. A lot of, there's a lot of basic Japanese culture. Even have a Japanese garden, Japanese temple, and I got the first time I knew about Japan was when I was like 5-6 years old. My parents gave me like a Super Nintendo, a Super Famicom for my everything for Christmas, and I played it. And then I just asked my parents when I started to speak. I mean, I was like 5 years, of course I could speak, but then when I asked them where did this come from, they said from Japan. And then first I realized, oh, Japan, that must be a great place, a place that can make such a great device. And that definitely sparked my interest into Japan. And then I guess, Pokemon was aired. I was like a little boy. I was watching those anime. And I realized, I live in a city where there's so many attach points to Japanese culture. And actually at high school, I got the opportunity to study some Japanese. So There was a Japanese class offered at my high school. I had to go to another high school, just, it was like maybe a 40-minute ride. So I went like twice a week to take Japanese class at the other high school, started learning Japanese. And then I think, a really great thing happened at the very end of my studying. During the last year of high school, I got the opportunity to have a student exchange at a high school in Japan. And that changed my life. That was the moment where I went there. I was in Japan for over a month at a Japanese high school in Saitama. And I was blown away, and I thought, I have to live here one day.
That's super cool that you got to do this like in high school already.
Right.
Student exchanges, I feel like, are mostly a thing that happens in university. And for high schools, you might have an exchange like with France or Belgium because it's nearby, or Düsseldorf, you're also very close to the Netherlands.
Yes.
But exchange to Japan,
definitely.
That's quite something. So how did that exchange work? Do you remember the time you arrived here, your first kind of flight to Japan?
Yes, I still remember it very very much in detail. It was in 2010. That was when I came to Japan for the first time. I arrived here, and I remember, of course, I was very tired from the flight, and we took a bus and we drove all the way to Saitama, and I stayed at the host family for a couple of weeks and visiting the high school. And what I remember so vividly still, like right now in summer, is the smell of summer in Japan.
Yes.
It's completely different from Germany or many other countries that I've visited. It's just, I can smell, it's summer in Japan. That was the first thing when I took the first breath on Japanese soil. It's like the smell, and just walking through the city, and then actually being at high school, it felt just so different, like another universe. How people interact with each other, like how everything looks like, the coloring of the logos, the cars, of course, how the town is structured, the streets, And I think especially when I went to high school, everyone was wearing uniforms. It's very much different from Germany, where people get judged for what they wear. And here it was just very unified. And everyone was kind of, at that time, it felt like, wow, this is great. Because at high school in Japan, everyone was so nice to each other. Almost like kind of, oh, it seems a little bit naive compared to how high school life was in Germany, where it's kind of brutal. You have to fight your way through, and everyone is against everyone. It's like, and also people judge you by what you wear, by how you talk, by how your hair looks like. But it was way more peaceful at high school in Japan. And just the whole, I mean, it's already like 15 years ago now, but I still remember how impactful this time was here in Japan.
And the idea was like, I need to come back. This cannot be just for one summer.
Definitely.
I need to come back here. So you spend your months with the smell of summer in Japan, and then you find your way back to Düsseldorf, to Little Tokyo.
Yes.
I forgot on which street this is on, but I remember there's a Little Tokyo.
Immermann Street, yeah.
And what's your plan then? How do you decide, okay, well, I'm still in high school, but I need to go back to Japan?
Yes, so definitely. Also during the stay in Japan, I actually just visited Saitama, and we just had a little trip to Tokyo. And I think I didn't even visit Akihabara back at that time, but I heard about it. I was like, oh, one day I have to go to the Mecca of Otaku and visit every place in Tokyo. I think we just visited Shibuya at that time. Shibuya, Shinjuku, that's it. And so when I came back to Düsseldorf, I just finished my high school. I had to do some service duty for Germany, six months of doing some social work. Then I could start to study, but I felt like the step, for example, moving somewhere very far is very difficult. It could be very difficult if it's you live with your family, all your friends, your family is in one place, and you just move all the way to another country so far away. It can be a very big step. So I thought, maybe I should make it a bit easier for myself. And I actually went to study in Vienna, which is, a little bit further away from Germany, but it's still within like an hour reach of a plane ride, or just, a few hours by car. And so I went to Vienna and studied economics at the University of Economy in Austria. But then I decided, no, I have to switch. I have to do like East Asian studies with focus on Japan and Japanese and Japanese society and such and such. And so I switched, and then my plan already started. Okay, now I have to study about Japan. I have to prepare myself to actually move there. And then I had the opportunity to study in Japan for 1 year at Hosei University.
Where is Hosei University?
It's in the heart of Tokyo.
Okay.
It's near Idabashi Ichigaya, in that area.
So that was finally your chance.
That was the chance.
You're on the track.
And thinking back about it, I think actually that year was the best year of my life so far. I think when I think about the level of happiness you can feel, and I think that's something I would probably never be able to get back to. But it's good. It's cool to remember that 1 year at Japanese university, just how many things I could experience, like so many new things. Yeah.
In your 1 month student exchange, you remembered how vivid the smell of summer was. But you described this year as the happiest in your life. Yes. What was it about this year? Is there one thing in particular that kind of stayed with you?
I think I wouldn't say it's one thing. I think it's the overall experience of actually being a student for such a long time and engaging in so many activities, in club activities at university, then just exploring place after place in Tokyo. Because of course, the first time is always the best time. It's something new, right? So when the first time I visited, for example, Akihabara, the first time I went to Asakusa, the first time I tried tsukemen, everything was a first timer. It felt just so new and so refreshing. It was just so, there was so much variety and experience in this 1 year I could gain and learn from.
And then you eventually graduated. I'm looking for a job in Japan.
Yes, actually. So then actually this will move a little bit in the direction of the start of Around Akiba and everything. So I did already make my own company in Düsseldorf, a German entity, UG, it's something like a smaller GmbH. And back there, it was called Amazing Japan. So I already, as you can, see, like I already got obsessed with Japanese culture so much that I basically found a little brand, Amazing Japan. We grew it to like 400,000-ish followers on Facebook. We were like, I did it with a friend, and we were just posting places from Japan, what's amazing in Japan, the food, the places.
So like a blog.
Like a blog, yeah, but more focused on social media. It was just the start of Facebook ads, and we just started posting. And with that company, I started inviting some guests from Japan. I think, we were the first people who actually invited a guest, like a cosplayer from Japan, to a convention in Europe. That was like a first.
Cool.
It was Reika. She's a popular she was, a huge cosplayer back in the days. She's still popular. And we arranged a flight ticket, hotel. We negotiated with the convention, and we brought her over. We did some, photo shoots with fans and her, some signature sessions, and that's how we started. Okay, we should do this every year, and we invited some cool guests from Japan to Europe, and that's what. When I was at university, there was a recruiter, and he introduced me to the first company I worked for in Japan. It's called Milestone. It's a wholesaler for basically anime products, like otaku goods all over the world. And one of the managers there, then he saw, he's posting a lot of photos from Japan, and he likes making blogs and content. And we're actually looking for someone who can help us with marketing for our company, more like B2B, but maybe he could also build something new within the company. And that's how I, had a job interview and got my first job at this company in Japan.
That must be quite the feeling to be like, finally, you've got the ticket, the ability to go there, live there.
Yeah.
Up until now, we talked about how you went to Japan a couple of times and you got interested, and you brought up just a little bit now the cosplay world.
Yes.
But you also said that your first contact was a Famicom.
Yeah.
So how much did you go into this kind of otaku culture throughout this time before you kind of actually moved there for work? Was this a big part of your life, or something you were not thinking about too much? Or?
I think it became a bigger and bigger part of my life. Yes, definitely. I think I got interested in many, many aspects of Japanese culture, but then the more I dived into it, I discovered new things. When I first, for example, visited Comic-Con, like the comic market in Japan, I just got overwhelmed with this illustrators, cosplayers, then also, of course, there's the Gravure industry, and like so many things, so many subcultures that gather at such conventions and around Akihabara, where I felt like, wow, this is just like multiple lives work of just cultures to dive into and explore and get consumed by. And I just felt this excitement to dive deeper into specific aspects. Like, of course, looking back, I think maybe it would have been good to just focus on one aspect of the culture, for example, just idols or just, retro games or just cosplayers. But for me, it was just, okay, I want to learn about every aspect of the Akihabara culture, like maid cafes, cosplay, even like, there's a lot of, events, for example, with Gravure idols or JAV stars, where they give like signing sessions and where you can take photos for yourself, like just some, fan events. And I visited basically everything out in the market. I went to basically I think I went to probably most of the types of things you can experience in Akihabara throughout these years. Yeah.
You brought up Akihabara.
Yes.
So this is kind of like the center, or it became the center of your life in Tokyo, shortly after you moved back for work.
Right.
Of course, many people have heard of Akihabara, but what is it?
Right. Akihabara is, there's a history behind the place of Akihabara. It first started after World War II, like in the 40s, 50s, where it was really a place for just exchange, basically like a black market to exchange electrical parts and build stuff. And then, but during the boom time in Japan, the bubble area in Japan, many shops opened places in Akihabara, like Yodobashi, the first big Yodobashi flagship store opened Akihabara, and was more about selling electric goods like televisions, computer parts, refrigerators, and so on and so on. And then, like in the 90s, when basically the anime like boom happened with, of course, the old like Dragon Ball, Sailor Moon, and like even before that, like Gundam. Then it started also to bring together like enthusiasts, like otaku, like I would say, from those kind of niches like anime, games, because they were consuming television. They were the ones who buy the television. They were the ones who buy the computer parts, and then they can consume those kind of cultures. It just exchanged into, okay, that's the next step. So how can we use the devices we purchase? We watch anime. We play video games, or light novel games, and then later it there was an addition for the vast variety of anime, where then of course there's so many genres of anime, and there's of course many genres where it's more about cute girls, like the moe, the kawaii culture. And from that segment it started that also maid cafes opened Akihabara. There was a big push in idol culture. It's in Japan, there's this phenomenon of oshikatsu, where you have some idol group, some gravy idol, some cosplayer that you support with all of your life's heart. But it's not really, for some people it can be a lot of obsession, but it's more of something you just want to live your success, your life through another person's success, this kind of feeling. And you put all your money, and not all your money, maybe, hopefully most of the time,
so
but
sometimes I have a feeling that it is all
for many people it is. Yeah. Put all your time and money into that person, into that idol group to succeed, and you feel good through seeing them succeed. And I think that's a big phenomena. And I can see this. We were talking a little bit of like cosplay or graveyard idol. Like I got pretty much also consumed by graveyard culture, very, very something I was very excited about and to learn more about. And graveyard idols is something similar, because from abroad we know, of course, there's like Playboy magazines, those kind of magazines, where it's really about like, okay, what men like there's cars and watches, and then there's the sexy girls, and usually would look through those and would say, oh, sexy girl I like. And back in the days there was no social media, but you would maybe follow and click like on that. But for gravy idols, it's a little bit different. Usually gravy idols still have something they are like passionate about. For example, mahjong, or like they like fishing, or they, like there's so many different ones, or yoga. And then, they are gravy idols, but they're still doing something. And then you follow them and you learn about what they do, and you just enjoy enjoy their activities.
I had no idea about that. We'll have to dive deeper into this part of your work as well, Gravure. So you said basically Akihabara evolved over the years from an electronics marketplace to larger electronic stores. I believe the Yodobashi store you mentioned at some point, maybe it is not anymore, but was the largest electronic store in Japan.
Yes, definitely.
Maybe in the world.
Still, yeah.
And basically that attracted the users who were also the kind of first generation otaku, if I can phrase it like that. And then kind of the other kind of subculture genres popped up, where they could then meet, exchange things, and share the things they're passionate about. That's kind of up until the 2000s. Recently, the headlines have been, oh, the Sega building has closed down. People are not going to Akihabara anymore as much as they used to. How is it today?
Yes, I would say during the phase where the pandemic started, it was, everything changed drastically. Like some of the biggest stores that were like representations of Akihabara, like the big Volk store, then of course even the Sega stores, they were suffering a lot. Many places just left Akihabara, or they completely vanished. Some companies got bankrupt, and it changed a lot. A lot of more shady, darker business entered Akihabara during those days. I would say, for example, back in the days, there were some maid cafes. Okay, maid cafes, just, it's basically really just a place to have a little bit of fun. There's some dancing, singing, some magic, food that's also it's delicious. It's it's a nice, cute place. But then there was a big push in like girls' bars, and some like ichakaba, or like con cafes, which is basically a maid cafe where you can drink, but it's more like a girls' bar. But there's some weirder things that can happen in those places, where it's like a little bit it's drifting a little bit away from what Akihabara originally was, just to make money very fast from those lucrative real estate spots in Akihabara. But then when the news came that the pandemic's over, tourists are going to come in again, then suddenly those places, there's a little bit less of those places now, but there's a big push in big stores that just sell souvenirs. It's just anything, like big like drugstores or big electronic stores that just target tourists and sell stuff for overpriced
So
stuff.
Akihabara is changing constantly over the years. Throughout all of this, what is Akihabara to you?
For me, Akihabara is a place of diversity in pop culture. I think, it gives, I would say it definitely enriches your life to dive into what Akihabara, for example, has to offer and all the different things you can get obsessed with in life. It's more in Japan like something like a shumi, you would call, like a hobby. But it's usually not related to sports. It's more about you can, be obsessed with building little miniatures or trains or Gunpla or photography. There's a big community about photography in Akihabara, cosplay, idols, manga, anime, video games, like computer parts. There's so many people that gather in Akihabara that are obsessed with something. And I think to find people that try to become like virtuous in a certain field, that's something I get motivated by and I can respect. That's why I just love to visit Akihabara and check different stores and see what kind of interesting people and shops I can find there. And it's just changing every month. There's a new building, a new shop coming up, so it never gets boring.
And it seems like from all the trends that come and go, a trace always remains in a way. And definitely. So Around Akiba, a YouTube channel, right. I can imagine you had the feeling like, oh, I want to document all of this. I want to show all of these things around Akiba. Definitely. Is that kind of how you got started with it?
That's basically how I got started with Around Akiba. There was this, I had a friend who also had his own company, Japanese friend, and he started Around Akiba first, and we were talking a lot, and he wanted to just basically commercialize like a blog where, okay, let's get all the places from Akihabara together, and basically, they pay a little money for articles. It was, the old school way of, doing basically some business with blogs on WordPress. And at one point he said, it's not really making any money. He already had like 3-4 videos on YouTube and the blog. And he just said, okay, Tristan, I think you love Akihabara, just take it. And he gave me what he had so far, the WordPress, the page, some articles, and then the YouTube. And back until then, I actually was more engaged on like the Amazing Japan side, where I thought, I want to promote all of Japan, because I love everything most things about Japan. Cultural things, but then I got Around Akiba, and I thought, okay, then because I'm, I would consider myself also to be an otaku of some sort, let's just go all in on Around Akiba. And then I started making videos, and I found my co-founder Matt, who's like a cosplay videographer on YouTube. Rescue the Prince is his name. And we then just started making videos in Akihabara, visiting places, doing some interviews with some idols. And then it continued and continued. I have to say, it really started off to grow when we went to all these big events in Tokyo, like Comic Market and Wonder Festival. And then there's also like some underground cosplay events. I think that's when the channel blew up. It's called, for example, there's an event called Cosholic, where underground cosplayers meet. And it's more like lewd cosplay. And it's a bit more interesting for viewers, apparently. And it was on the edge of YouTube, I would say, the content we were making. But those videos got like 1 million views. And then we made similar videos. And we became friends with some of the cosplayers there. And that's also how we built our business from there with the cosplayers, the Gravure idols we met at those events. Yeah.
We had a couple of cosplayers on the podcast. and we talked about the cosplay scene and those,
Right.
let's say, mainstream events and the rules being relatively strict.
Yes.
And you can do things only in that way or this way.
Yeah.
So those underground events are where all those rules go away.
I wouldn't say unfortunately, but no, not all rules go away, and they've become stricter. But I remember like 10 years ago, I actually went to these events also since like 10, 12 years ago. But those events changed in the beginning. There were way less rules about how much you can expose of yourself and the things that the fans can take. But and the things you can actually sell. They sell like their ROMs, like which is just like their own digital work on like printed on ROM, and then also their photo books. But the rules for those are stricter, and now the committee always checks all the products that they're selling, and they will look around if like there's too much shown or like something is shown that shouldn't be shown, and it became stricter and stricter, more regulated. But the rules are, of course, different. Yeah, I think for the big events like Tokyo Game Show or what else would there be? Anime Japan, they were way stricter, of course, even like for regular cosplay, how much, for example, skin you can show. But at those events, for example, Cosholic, there's multiple events like that. There's even more coming up these days for like more niche ones where it's just like pochari girls, a little bit more like, voluptuous, and different types of like events for different types of cosplayer types. And those events are always crowded. Like it's so crowded, so packed, and you always have to like pre-order your ticket. And then fortunately we had press passes most of the time. But it's interesting. Yeah.
So you took over Around Akiba as a YouTube channel and started filming around, but it really started taking off when you went down into the underground cosplay world with your partner who is a professional cosplay videographer.
Exactly.
But the idea was we want to show Akiba, right?
Yes.
And from everything you've shared so far, it seems that what's happening in Akiba is pretty large in terms of range of opportunities. Yeah. You've got the cosplay, you've got the gravure, you've got the idols, you've got the maids, you've got the anime, you've got the photography. What was your idea? Like, how can we showcase this? Or was it more like just a natural gravitation towards where the viewers responded and there was an audience?
Definitely, we tried to still please the viewers that joined us from those kind of videos that we were making. So we tried to integrate those kind of reoccurring videos of going to certain events every time, or to certain like satsueikai, like shooting events with some of the models. But then we tried to do some videos in Akihabara, visiting maid cafes, or trying to find certain items in Akihabara. And then recently I started one series, which we still have to continue moving forward, but it's basically where we have like a guest. Usually it's one of the models that we work with, and we just walk around Akihabara, go to some of the stores that we are partners with, and they have a budget and they buy whatever they want. They can talk about their obsession with otaku culture. And we definitely want to move more into the direction where we have some guests on our show that will talk about their passion, their otakuism, like what are they obsessed with. And that's something we want to move more in the direction and showcase more shops in Akihabara. But unfortunately, what we realized is we showed a couple of shops on our channel. Many of them are already gone. It's just changing so much. I mean, Yodobashi is still there, but there's so many shops that we showcase, they don't exist anymore.
So there's always new shops coming up.
Definitely.
So the idea is to make those videos with guests and some of the models that you work. Yeah. So we kind of dive in, I understand, into the Gravure model. Yes. Brought the topic up earlier. What is Gravure? How do people understand? How is your different than you mentioned?
Right. So it's definitely Gravure. I would put it closer to the industry of cosplayers in Japan than to the, for example, let's say JV actresses. It's somewhere in between where it's still, and there's also it's PNG 15 and 18. So for example,
PNG 15 and 18.
Exactly.
Okay.
For example, if you go to a convenience store in Japan, you see all these like shonen magazines. Like, of course, there's Jump. There's so many like Young Jump and all these shonen magazines. And usually there's like either cosplayer or a gravy idol on any of those.
Yeah.
And this is like part of that culture where the market usually looks for interesting newcomer gravy idols to be featured on those magazines. But any model, a cosplayer or a JV actress or any idol, like an AKB idol or, you know, one of those music idols, they can also become a gravy idol or do gravy work, which means it's basically something like a pin-up model work where it's either a photo shoot or a video shoot for a DVD. Usually it's photo shoots, and they would go to an agency like a Shupansha, like a printing agency, like for example, let's say Shueisha, and then there's a division in Shueisha for Gravure promotion, Gravure work, and then it could be any type of idol, as I mentioned, and then they would discuss, okay, what are you comfortable wearing, and there's so many rules for the Gravure industry. For example, first of all, like there's about, okay, what do you want to do, and there's lists of like they have to fill out what kind of clothing they would be okay with wearing. And then depending on how much percentage of your chest or your butt is shown, it is either PNG 15 or 18.
It's based on a percentage.
It's based on the percentage. If more than 30% is revealed, it's R18.
How do they measure? Do they take like
it's a bit like, yeah. Usually if and you can, that's definitely a thing, like it's not measured that in that detail. So definitely the agencies, the companies that have more power, like Shueisha, for example, or Kodansha, their products will be more revealing and still go past that 15 mark, where like other smaller printing agencies will have to, you need relations there. Yeah.
The first visual example you gave for Gravure, for people to maybe visualize what it is, was the magazines in the convenience stores in Japan, the convenience, next to the shonen magazines, sometimes on top on the first page. It's an interesting choice to place it because you have a lot of young teenagers viewing girls that are showing a very small percentage of clothing and a very large percentage of skin on those magazines. How did this whole culture kind of evolve here in Japan? Do you know that?
How that culture involved, the Gravure culture.
Do you know where it comes from? This idea of this whole Gravure modeling. I feel like it's a term that is particularly used in Japan, but maybe less so in the West.
Yeah, it's difficult. Like, I think from my research, no one really knows where exactly it started, but it intertwines with those magazines, the manga culture. I think at one point, like, those publishers realized that we can basically sell multiple products to the same audience, like the audience who reads those kind of magazines, where in there's some more maybe revealing manga with stories that target teenage boys. Then it would be just an obvious thing to just also include a 3D version, a 3D model, like an actual Gravy Idol, to then also market that Gravy Idol and have events with her, and also, make photo books and produce products to also sell to the same audience. I think that's how that kind of combination happened. And this also happened with cosplay now. I think with cosplay, it's more recent. And it's also very specific agencies that have the right and to actually do this. Because, sorry, I'm like going back and forth, but talking about cosplay, of course, one thing about the whole industry is, like, especially with cosplay, that everything is, there's this license issue, and it's always a gray zone. Like, you can't just do a cosplay of a famous character and be on the magazine of a shonen.
Unless you're licensed by the owner of this character and allowed to do so.
Exactly. But that's all like power and connections. And I think in Japan, it's maybe only a few agencies that have this kind of kenri, how's it called?
Power, the ability to get you the licenses.
For example, if I'm okay to mention people, like this, for example, you can see that almost every month there's at least one magazine featuring Enako, or one of the models from her agency. She's the biggest cosplayer, the most influential, richest, most successful cosplayer in Japan. And like you can see that like she will have models, cosplayers from her agency or herself on the magazines. And then there's also Gravure idols from different agencies, but it's all influenced by those agencies. And for other Gravure idols that are not in those big agencies, it's more difficult. Which is also important to mention that there's the agencies that are the Gravure idols or models that are with an agency and the ones that are freelance and not an agency. And of course, the good spots on magazines, TV commercials, or television. There's a lot of variety television, of course, in Japanese, like or late night TV, where Gravure idols appear a lot, actually. And on those shows, I mean, it's mostly agency girls that are shown on those shows. Or recently, there's Abema TV, for example. They all go to Abema TV and are on those shows. But only if they are super successful and also working very successfully as an individual, as a freelance model, they will also get those spots on popular TV shows, magazines, YouTube channels, and so on and so on.
So you mentioned everyone can become Gravure, and a lot of people that are like idols, cosplayers, or do something else will also do Gravure. And you kind of explained that Gravure is in a way just a purely commercial product. How can we sell more to the audience that's already existing? So basically using the body to sell more and then appear on TV shows and kind of gain in popularity. Exactly. And that leads to this oshikatsu you were explaining before. So it's kind of all linked together.
It's all linked together. It's like, all combined. But in a simple way, I mean, Gravure means it's like engraving something. It's basically just the print, that like, you have a photo of someone and put it in a magazine. And it's very vague, like someone, a model in a kimono just showing a shoulder, but like nicely photographed would also be considered, Gravure.
So it's not necessarily just in bikini.
It's not necessarily just in bikini.
You said that when a girl goes to this agency, now there's many rules and they have to choose how much they feel comfortable showing, what kind of clothes they feel comfortable showing. Can you explain a little bit how this works? Are there like recruiting agents that walk around Akihabara looking for girls and be like, hey, do you want to be a Gravure model? No. Or is it more like people that reach out and like, hey, I want to become, and how can I do it?
Yeah, that's in the old days. It was just as you mentioned. There were so many scouts in Harajuku, in Akihabara, in different places. In maybe not so in Akihabara because there's not that many girls walking around, but like recruiting on the streets. But recently, it's most of the work's done online. So agents will just look exactly for example, those underground cosplayers or girls who are maybe popular cosplayers or on TikTok or Instagrammers, and just like reach out to them. And it's usually agencies. So there's a couple of bigger agencies who recruit Gravure idols, cosplayers in Japan, or cosplayers or any type of idol in Japan. And they would then recruit them. And then there's the production agencies that will produce the videos or photos of Gravure idols. And then they would sell it to publishers. And sometimes for the biggest publishers, of course, they have probably all of those free components in one company. And then the agent with the model would go to the production, and then the production director would then go through the lists. And in the proper agency, they would definitely, it's, for example, either video or photo. And for example, let's talk about video because there's way more they can choose from. But it's usually the outfit, like how much is it bikini okay, or like lingerie? There's like this little square or triangle bikinis, just barely covering everything. Like micro bikinis, like what are you comfortable with wearing? And then are you okay with putting things on your body, like oil or lotion or sunscreen? And then it would also be any act that you would be okay with doing. For a video, for example, it would be okay. Are you okay with moaning or like, moving your body in specific ways, which could be suggestive. And then there's a female staff that will use her hands to massage the body or do certain things.
A female?
Yes. I mean, in any proper agency is a female for Gravure in particular. And then that lady would maybe shake the body or massage the oil on the body. And it gives the viewer kind of this POV view of, I'm with my idol. And I think that's a big part of every Gravure idol. basically most Gravure idols are considered a Gravure idol if they bring out one DVD with a DVD maker in Japan, which is like a Gravure DVD. And there's of course different, segments where just usually the typical one is like we go to the beach, and then it's a girl licking an ice like candy or some, like eating ice cream, and then that is a little bit suggestive and sexual, and it's kind of, it gives the viewer the feeling of I'm with my girl, like I'm on a date, like it's, but there's no other male component. The only person is really the staff, the female staff of like holding things or doing something.
It kind of leads to an interesting path, right? Because these models that are maybe doing something completely different will, with their own agreement, make sometimes very suggestive videos.
Yes.
In a way to give a large or potentially large audience the feeling of they're in a very intimate, they're rubbing oil on their body, and I'm still trying to like process. I mean, how it feels very perverse in a way that is maybe different than let's say pornography in the West. This kind of like you very intimate with. What would be an alter? For example, recently in the West, there have been a lot of cases of like these AI-generated videos of celebrities without their clothes, or I feel like it's kind of going in this direction, but voluntarily. Whereas in the West, you don't necessarily see celebrities making a lot of these kind of videos to be closer to their fans, or so it's kind of an interesting fan to idol relationship,
right?
If I can phrase it like that.
I completely understand what you want to say. I think it really depends on the Gravure idol, what she decides, which path she wants to go forward. Because like, if it's, for example, let's say it's a YouTuber, a Japanese YouTuber, a girl, successful, and she's usually dressed up. But then she works with one of the publishers and says, okay, I will do one Gravure thing. And then usually she would do just like a little bikini shoot or pajama, that's it. And it's just like a little service for her fans to get maybe more popular, to get another audience.
Commercial too.
Commercial. She would never cross that line, because otherwise there would be definitely some clients that would say, oh, we can't work with you anymore. Because unfortunately that still happens a lot. And for some of the Gravure idols who decide, okay, I go this path of doing more and more suggestive DVDs that are just on the edge of being like, sometimes it's crazy to think that some of them are still like, R15 rated and not 18, but like, it's basically like, it's just a girl doing things. But doing more and more of that will definitely hinder some of your future work that you can get from companies. And especially, it's always like, those publishers and DVD makers, they always demand a little bit more for the next one, like, because that one already sold. We already made this kind of product. This time we want a little bit more. So if you start off with like, oh, lotion and oil and like there's, the cream like spilling in my mouth, like all these kind of things, then there's nothing you can do for your next work. It's all done. And because most of the Gravure idols I talk to, their dream is to get their own photo book published, and that's like the highest goal of any Gravure idol, is to have your own photo book, like that's in all the stores to be purchased, like by Kodansha or Kadokawa, like a big publisher, and they will like have your photo book everywhere in Japan, and it's something beautiful that just you have your best moment, your youth, your peak of aesthetics in one photo book that can be consumed throughout time. And that's like the biggest achievement a Gravure idol can do. And unfortunately, if they start the wrong way and then just do too much in one DVD or the other, or too much in a magazine, the photo book job will be more difficult to get. It's usually preserved for the Gravure idols that are more preserved, and then just do a little bit more than they usually do. And because definitely.
This is a field where when you take those photos, those videos, and you put them out there, there's no going back.
Yes.
So how does it work in terms of regulation and protection for the models? You mentioned that, for example,
yes. Yeah.
What other kind of
Yes, definitely. It's very similar to actually the JV industry in the pornographic industry in Japan, where right now there's a big push into legally where it becomes stricter and stricter actually for agencies to produce anything. There was this AV Shimpo, which affected only AV in the beginning, but now it goes a little. It touches the gravy industry too, where it's like, okay, you have to sign an agreement like 3 months, 6 months in advance to be okay with everything that's going to be done to you, and you can consider for like a long time if you want to do it or not. But this will most of the unfortunate idols that I talk to, like be it JV or Gravure or any industry, they're very concerned and like not happy about these kind of regulations, even though they were made for them. It's kind of now they can make less money. Everything will take more time.
This is what June was talking on the podcast as well, that the laws are designed to protect, but they're also taking away the livelihood.
Exactly.
So it's a hard balance to find, it seems.
Very hard balance. But they can, like in the gravy industry, they can still, at one point, if they want the product taken off the market, that's possible. The digital version, you can take off DMM and all the sites that it's listed on. And then same with the selling DVDs on the market, like they can be taken away. But it's like a contract where at least for 1 year, at least for 3 years, it will be in the market. And then it can be retrieved, except the chuko, the used market, which is very big in Japan. Like there's so many used DVDs and secondhand DVDs in the market. More difficult with those. I think there's no rules or regulations for those kind of,
Where's the line between
Oh, I mean, clearly there's no opponent. There's no other actor in the video. It's really just the model, and then maybe the makeup artist, the stylist that does something that's like giri, it's like just on the edge, but there's no other actor. It's really just about the model, and it's more about like POV for the DVDs. And then just to just summarize everything, just to like understand, a gravy idol would do multiple things to sustain their income. They would have their own maybe fan sites, they would sell DVDs, they would publish something in a magazine, they would publish a photo book, be it with a publisher or by themselves. They would have fan events regularly, they would have shooting events where fans can come and take photos of them, where they charge them for time slots. And then also they would do activities. For example, as I mentioned before, do mahjong or golf or be on YouTube channels, make their own YouTube channel, like all these things they do around Gravure, which I would consider, okay, this is an actual like Gravure idol that does Gravure like on a daily basis, but just to a certain point, as always, he should never cross the line and just does all these things around it. And then any other idol type can also do Gravure work. Yeah, even the JV idols, like the work of Gravure can be done by any one of these categories.
So with Around Akiba, you kind of dive into this Gravure world.
Right.
You documented it. You started meeting a lot of those models, interacting with them. And now the concept you want to do is take them around Akihabara and have them share their own version of it. What stores are they into, and so on and so forth. So what can we find in Akihabara? What is interesting? What stores do you go to, and what kind of products do people seek out when, let's say, they go beyond those large tourist traps and those large just the drugstores selling the same things on every street corner in Japan?
Yeah, I mean, there's something for everyone, I think. I recommend it to everyone to just visit Akihabara at least once. For example, I recently got more and more into like trading cards. I think there's a big boom and hype, and there's many trading card stores popping up in Akihabara, where you can have so many different stores or different types of trading cards.
Including Gravure trading cards, which I learned today while watching one of your latest videos, which I had no idea about.
Exactly. Even those exist. These are more like collectibles, but even those exist. And then, of course, there's like, all types of, if you're into board games, you can find shops for those. All these maid cafes and con cafes, concept cafes, where, it's you become like, Alice in Wonderland, and everyone's dressed up as rabbits. I don't know, there's so many different ones which you can just explore and have fun with. You can just go for a coffee. You can also have drinks in Akihabara. All these electric stores, parts stores, if you want to build your own PC, if you're into that, LED lights, you can find anything there. And it's just interesting to, strive through Akihabara and discover new, very interesting spots. Yeah.
I remember on my first ever trip to Japan, I was in one of those anime figure store, and I was looking for One Piece figures for my brother, and one person walked in and he had like a photo on his phone, and he went to the salesperson like, "Hey, do you have this figure?" And then I assume that's what he said. I didn't speak Japanese at the time, but the guy said 1 second. He went to the back and he came with a huge box of a woman with completely disproportionate breasts and in a very suggestive position. And
not the One Piece figurine.
Not the One Piece figure, no.
Okay.
And the guy bought it and took this huge box home. And I was just thinking to myself, so this guy just has this figure and he goes home and he puts this on his shelf and he looks at this. What is I want to understand. What is
He was Japanese?
Yes. Yeah. Kind of the I don't know, the mindset, the interest in these figures, because
you're talking about the erotic figurines.
Erotic figures, very disproportionate, and the community that buys them, because there are obviously a substantial amount of people buying them, otherwise they wouldn't be produced. Definitely. Because coming from the West, it just seems like strange, for lack of a better word.
I think maybe I I became a little bit too Japanese there, but like I feel going back to one point is like erotic culture in Japan, like this kind of culture where now like people buy erotic figurines. It has a long history in Japanese society. Like in Europe, where we are from, like we needed the Renaissance to basically like, you know, become more open-minded in specific ways. But in Japan, like 300 years ago, they already had, you know, shunga and made all these octopuses engaged with women and like all these things, like which was art, but it's also erotic art, and erotic culture has a long history in Japan. And Japanese people, my conception is that people in Japan they don't think about it in like, oh, that's so weird or strange. It's just like, oh, it's, you know, like some sort of artwork or something you can get inspired from, or like if this turns you on, then that's fine. That's good for you. Like it's more this kind of mindset where you would think something is crazy or perverse or like different or strange or absurd. Like I stopped thinking that way, and I think in Japan it's also way more open-minded if it comes to those kind of, you know, things, including figurines. Like, you know, having figurines that you can undress. Like most people I know in Japan, it would be like, oh yeah, that's cute. Like, oh, interesting.
So you see, something strange to me, a misconception I have perhaps about that part of Japanese culture. What other misconceptions would you say people have about Akihabara? Is perhaps too large of a term, but you are involved into those various subcultures.
And I mean, even Akihabara, I think, I can talk about this for hours, but one thing I remember how angry I got about this is, for example, I'll name drop them here, but Vice Media. I mean, they don't exist in that way anymore. But they made those weird documentaries in Japan multiple times. And one of the worst ones was when they actually went to Akihabara and they tried to find the weirdest looking guys. And then they went to this maid cafe or like concept cafe. And there was apparently like one of the girls was like 16 or something. Like she wasn't full of age, which is of course not good if she would work in specific fields. But then she was really just working like part-time as like a maid or something like normal. But the guy said like, oh, she's like a sex worker, or like, you know, they take advantage of her. And he was like walking for Akihabara with this dark music and saying like, everyone working here is kind of like being used and taken advantage of, and some of them are not even like full of age. But like the reality is like no one thinks that way in Akihabara. Like no one even considers this, and like even like thinking that the guy would think about this girl in like a specific way, or like feeling sexually attracted to her. I actually doubt that. Most of the guys, the otaku, the otaku Japanese guy would probably just think, oh, like it's just cute. Like I like it here. It's just cute. I feel like, oh, it's my little sister, whatever weird thing. But it's not what is kind of like being shown through media, that it's this like industry where everyone is like taking taken advantage of. It's not that dark from my experience. Most people I talk with, they are totally fine with what they do. And yeah.
That's one big misconception. There are darker places for sure. You mentioned some of these businesses going in there during COVID.
Definitely.
But not all of what you see is going behind the scenes or under the table.
Definitely. I mean, there's many misconceptions also, like, for example, that otaku are like very lonely and also always weird. But I know that many of them are they always build their own little community. Like even the people that go to like a maid cafe or go to certain Gravure idol events to take photos, or, go to those idol events or collect things. They all are in their community, still communicating with each other on Twitter. Usually they have their own community on Twitter, which is it's very popular, or online, and they communicate, and they're very social. They are actually very social from the people I knew. I mean, I interviewed tons of people from any, field of the otaku field, and they're usually very cool to talk with. It's not that they are so weird. And also saying that, for example, otaku culture or Akihabara, or that sexualization, it's just for men, is also wrong. Because like there's a big push in like the BL industry, boys love, where there's like doujinshi fan fiction for targeted to women who enjoy guys engaging with each other. And there's all these like games where there's these ikemen characters that girls can get obsessed with, and there's a huge demand and huge industry making those kind of products too. So it's not as one-sided as people would say or think.
So basically, if you go to Akihabara and dive into otaku culture, be open-minded and just take the things as they are and try to look a little bit beyond what you see.
I would even go as far as say this is how you should treat any other culture, especially in Japanese culture, which was isolated for hundreds of years. You cannot come to Japan and be like, oh, that's different from where I'm from. And it could be like crazy different, where it's like against morals. Like, because there's things where you even have like your moral values from certain cultures, of course, which could be very, very strong. You come to Japan, the morals are more vague. Like most people, like in Japan, like when I talk to people, they don't get obsessed or angry about specific, moral dilemmas or values, where it's like, oh, because it's just how it works in this culture. And then to say like, oh, this is like below our culture, or strange or weird or perverted, it kind of, I think with this attitude, especially otaku culture, it will be difficult to understand what makes people obsessed in Japan. This culture, yeah.
You've now done Around Akiba for many years, integrated it into your company.
Right.
You're connecting those models with companies as a marketing agency. What are some of the over the last, nearly decade, I think, that you've been here, the most striking memories you have from documenting the evolution of Akiba?
Definitely how much it changes, like all the different stores that come up, all the different places. But also, the evolution of Akihabara. Oh, that's a difficult question. For example, do you have...
Well, you've worked with some very famous actresses as well. You've attended some very large anime or cosplay events.
Right.
I don't know if there's some encounters that kind of particularly struck you.
Of course. One particular one, I can mention maybe one or two. Like one was definitely at one of the comic markets, where I met for the first time a Gravure idol that I already knew from magazines since my university days. Her name is Fumina Suzuki, who is like a legendary like Gravure idol in the industry. And, I interviewed her there, and she was super cool. Like she says, oh, she definitely wants to, do more interviews for abroad and in English. And that's also the model I made the trading card video with, because she published her own trading cards. And at that event, I met her. Got connected to her, and also was able to interview a couple of other very famous cosplayers in the industry, like Iori Moe and Enako, all at the same event. So that event was like, wow, going to one event can change what you do so much, because getting connected to all these managers and models and cosplayers who also know everyone, and when they follow you back, it gives you kind of social accountability for other cosplayers and models in the industry. I think because everything in Japan goes about jiseki and having already made interviews with specific people or specific content that you can show to other people, then they will see it and say, oh, okay, this person can be trusted because this person is following them and they made content with this person. So that was very successful event that I remember. And one more thing is from some event that I visited with my friend, I met Kao Shibuya, who's also a very, very big personality in the otaku industry. I mean, she graduated from her previous work, but now she's really like an idol for otaku worldwide and super popular. And I made a couple of videos with her. Also, reviewing specific places, restaurants, or collecting stamps, like anime stamps, like more otaku-related content for the channel. And that was always a pleasure because she's so knowledgeable about the otaku industry and well-connected. So that's also an encounter that I, of course, remember. And I think, for example, we're working together for 4 years now, 4 or 5 years, and I'm taking all the photos for social media, and then we make content together for YouTube here and then. So that's very cool.
So meeting people.
Basically.
And
yes.
people connect with people to connect with more people.
Exactly.
So despite the digitalization of everything, the real life encounters are still the most impactful.
Yeah, definitely.
Basically, you arrived in Japan for work.
Yes.
But very quickly, it seems like you drifted away to start your own and establish yourself in that industry. An industry you said that you were interested in, but not like too deep into before moving to Japan.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that when you started learning about it, that kind of you were also surprised about? Like, oh, I had no idea, or this, I was wrong about that one.
Wow. I think I was very surprised. It's something that like diving into the different industries that I realized, wow, like no one is actually making money in these industries. Like, for example, cosplay, the idol industry, like illustrators, voice actors, like, for example, animators, they're all underpaid. And if they work for someone, if they're just doing their thing, usually they really make just the minimum amount of money. Some don't even make money with what they are doing. Mainly, they have to still work somewhere. And especially, for example, like, let's say, like idols, that's crazy. Like most of the idols will never make any money with the idol work. They have to perform, they are like in a group. But just thinking about, they have like a group of girls and they perform and they all have to live from this. It's impossible, right? Like there's a manager taking a cut, there's the event location, people who serve drinks and food at those events, but they only get like a little fraction of whatever is made. And it's basically impossible for them, even if they get really, really famous, to buy the main thing they're doing to survive. Same with cosplayers, illustrators, like the doujinshi artists, because it's all a gray zone. You cannot have a cosplay of an original character and sell it and make money. The animation studio, the mangaka will sue you for doing that kind of thing unless you get the license, unless you're like, for example, Enako, who can do this now. But it's like basically like just from doing cosplay or illustrations or specific types of work in the industry, most people cannot survive. That's not their main work. But it surprised me they still do it. It's their passion. They're so deep into it and they treat it as it's their main work, but it's not the thing financing their life. And I can barely come up with anyone in the industry who became rich, for example, from what they're doing, right?
Is there any change in this where you see new opportunities, perhaps with new social media, new apps, new online mediums for people to make a revenue from it, from being an idol, from being a Gravure idol, from doing cosplay? Or is it a never-ending challenge to just kind of get by?
Oh, actually both. It's, of course, a never-ending challenge, as most things are, but I feel like there's many, many more opportunities now with, of course, social media becoming bigger and bigger, and there's more different types of social media, and, the world's attention lies in Japan. Japan is becoming the hub for creators worldwide, and there's, for example, virtual YouTubers, VTubers coming up. So basically, if you don't want to be in front of the camera yourself, you can become a VTuber. You can do it yourself. You can go to an agency. You can, for example, do VTubing, which can be very, very profitable if you're successful. Of course, you can be an idol and do your own YouTube channel. I mean, that's with most people. But if you have like a base fame from what you're doing in real life with real life activities, and then still do YouTube on top, you can make income with something like this. You can crowdfund your own project, I guess, for making an anime. And then there's companies, there's more and more attention being paid to those industries. For example, Netflix, which is also, I think, one of the biggest reasons for anime culture and otaku culture blowing up worldwide so much, because it gives basically like you subscribe and you get all this access to various anime, and they produce new anime. So you can, make money with working, for example, with Netflix, making your own anime. I guess there's more and more opportunities, but it's still, of course, a challenge, especially, with, I think, especially if you're just getting started, it will take you have to be patient and just continue doing your own thing and just become very, very good at it. And then people will work with you, or you will find the people to work with.
In this changing landscape now, what's next for you? What is coming up with Around Akiba and with your company and the models you work with? You mentioned the series you want to continue,
Yes.
But beyond that, how do you navigate or plan to navigate the changes?
Definitely. I think we definitely want to make more videos actually in Akihabara. So taking people around Akiba. It doesn't have to be models. We are planning to have different guests and bring them around Akihabara. For that, we have to do some strategic partnerships with some of the places, some of the shops and cafes, because as you know, like in Japan, it's not that easy to film. We don't want to be those people who just go in and film whatever we want and then get scolded. We need to actually get the permission. So we need to make a proper kikakusho, like a proposal, send it to those stores and become partners, and then do something on a regular basis in specific locations. That's one thing we want to build up, where we just started with like a few test videos we did. This is one of the things. And then I really want to deep dive into the lives of some of the personalities in Akihabara, some of the people who actually succeed in all that craziness of what's going on in Akihabara and Japanese pop culture. And I still want to always keep like kind of like a positive vibe with the videos, because I know, sorry to go back to this, but like if like there's so many documentaries and YouTubers who kind of like showcase things, and it always shows everything. Oh, it's so dark, negative, but it's dark and negative.
The dark side of Akihabara.
Exactly. Like it's from the point of the viewer. It seems very dark, but talking to the people, it's usually not as dark as it seems. And it's just important to talk to these people, why they do what they do, and if they still enjoy their lives. And for most people I met, no matter what they do, they still kind of, are happy and fulfilled with what they do. And I feel like I want to deep dive more into those kind of perspectives from different creators in Akihabara. And one thing I really want to do all the time, but it's kind of difficult, and I have to see how we can do this, is I want to build this kind of style of a Japanese talk show, like a late night talk show where there's also these cosplayers and models. And then we're doing challenges with them and interviews and some weird things.
I see.
And then like maybe there's like a little face popping up, giving comments about what's happening. But this is something we're planning for a long time and hasn't happened yet.
You need a studio space, a production team.
Exactly.
And that sounds very exciting. Lots of cool plans.
Yeah.
And a lot more interesting content coming up on Around Akiba in the next few months. You said one of the things you don't want is for people to just see the dark side that's often portrayed in the general media. Do you feel like from our conversation today, we got a good idea of what is going on in Akiba? Do you feel like there's something we didn't talk about that you maybe want to share and bring up?
I think we talked about most things. I would maybe just add that we always have to, nothing we have to be, but I think it's always good to be kind of understanding and like try to understand why, like for example, otaku or people who consume culture in or around Akiba do what they do. For some of them, it's something to fulfill their lives. They want a hobby. It could be something simple as, having a hobby, but I feel like for some of them it's, or even, finding a guideline for life, honestly, like, having some, even for some, it's something more religious or political to be part of the otaku culture, to consume animations. And even with anime, we see that some anime, even One Piece, which is my favorite anime, is very religious, is very, very political. And it can in some way give meaning to people's lives, or make it more fun or entertaining, bring them value. And as long as nothing is taken, and it just gives a little bit more, something artistic, something to learn from, something entertaining, then why not try it out?
Tristan, thank you so much for sharing your story and sharing your insights into Akihabara. I think I learned a lot, and some of my misconceptions or my questions that I was wondering about, you answered them and gave me some more insights. I hope our listeners enjoyed it too. Thank you everyone for listening and watching. This was Unpacking Japan, and we'll be back again soon. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did. Please hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on future conversations. And we'd love to hear from you. Share your thoughts in the comment section down below. And if you enjoyed this episode, here are a couple more that we think you'll enjoy. Thanks again for your support, and we'll see you next time.